Okay, let's have a look. Going beyond the surface, a deep dive into complex crypto issues. Now, you might have to rewatch this. I don't know, you might have to take notes, I'm not sure, but you may not sink in initially straight away the words that I'm actually saying. And for some reason, background's not playing. Okay. And there we go. Now, next thing. Thank you. The current concurrent viewer. Alright. Technical difficulties averted. Now, I'm bringing this one to you a little bit late. You know, a few days. You know, when you get trapped in your own mind, you sort of don't really produce or get that much done. So I thought I'll go back and do some research and present the findings of the research. A lot of it is from the same outlet. Now, again, whether or not you like this outlet, that's up to you. You have your own free will. You can come to your own conclusions. So all I can do is present, and you can decide whether it is fact or fiction. Now, this one's called The Next CBDC Gambit Tomorrow. This is from the 18th of April, so it's old. It's a 5-minute forecast. So I've got about 4 of these. So hopefully I'll get it done within 5 minutes each one. We have the following sections: laying the groundwork for a CBDC launch. The bank, I shouldn't laugh because it's kind of serious. Bank of England pushes for digital pound, QR codes in India, and the taxman loves it. AI developing new drugs, and then some other, non-crypto related issues. So we'll cover this one first. For the House Financial Services Committee meets tomorrow to lay the groundwork for the launch of CBDC, a central bank digital currency. Of course, it's not being advertised as such. Instead, the topic is whether to enact a 2-year ban on endogenously collateralized stablecoins. As you might already know, stablecoins are cryptocurrencies pegged to a reference asset. Endogenously collateralized. There you go. Stablecoins are those backed by other crypto assets and not backed by fiat, such as the US dollar. During the 2-year ban, the US Treasury would carry out an extensive study on these types of assets and present a report of its findings to the House Committee no later than the year after the bill has passed, reports the Unchained Crypto site. Now I'm sure you're hearing this on places like Crypto Twitter and crypto news on, like, if you search this in Google. However, it was from Unchained Crypto site, so maybe some people were picking this up, I don't know. Next, to be sure, there's much confusion surrounding the bill, but the worry is that the bill would ban most commonly used stablecoins. Okay, that kind of sucks. Now, one of the bill's provisions stipulates that the Federal Reserve would be in charge of approving and regulating non-bank stablecoin issuers. Unchained Crypto continues a category that the Circle and Tether, two of the largest players in the space, fall under. No doubt Tether has a checkered history. I'll cover that briefly. In May of last year, Tether's peg to the US dollar was in danger of breaking when the Terra stablecoin blew up. But it's not about Tether, it's about the end game, one that a handful of prescient observers sniffed out even as Tether was under pressure nearly a year ago. Thank you for tuning in, thank you for the like. But it's not about Tether. And it has this tweet here from a while ago, May 12th, 2022. Almost seems like these are coordinated attacks to create a ban stablecoin narrative, then bait switch the CBDC. A benefit of issuing a central bank digital currency would be that it might diminish the proliferation of these stablecoins. Janet Yellen on the 5th of the 12th, 2022. Okay, so that is just coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. However, moving on. to this article. Legislation to enact this 2-year stablecoin moratorium was posted on the House Financial Services Committee website Saturday. For the moment, it's called To Be Added Act of 2023, and there's no bill number. So we don't know who the co-sponsors are, but we understand it has bipartisan support. With any luck, the crypto-friendly CBDC hostile House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, Minnesota, can put a stop to this scheme before it gets much further. Meanwhile, we are seeing other signposts on the road to a CBDC and a cashless society. Cash will become less usable as High Street goes contactless, says the Bank of England, according to the UK Telegraph. Okay, next section. Cash is likely to decline further, and cash itself will become less usable in everyday transactions, said Bank of England Deputy Governor John Conliffe at a conference yesterday. For example, if internet commerce grows, and if merchants increasingly accept only digital payment. For that reason, Cunliffe said, it's essential to press on with plans for a digital pound, a British CBDC. So this would affect UK. He did say the Bank of England would not abandon those people who still rely on physical cash. Whether he to be taken at his word is another matter. Meanwhile, another huge developing country has embraced contactless smartphone payments via QR code, and the taxman loves it. Last month, we did our most recent update on India's move towards a less cash society. To borrow the words of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Modi has been up front that the ultimate goal is a cashless society. For his country's 1.4 billion inhabitants, key to the systems is the ease of mobile QR code transactions for even a 10-cent cup of chai. Now Bloomberg Business Week tells us street vendors and their customers in Indonesia, population 274 million, are also embracing digital fetters. After 25 years of taking cash only, a seller of spiced fruit salad in Jakarta got a QR code in January. I applied for QR because buyers kept asking for it. He tells the magazine. Already he puts a third of his daily revenue from QR payments. Wow. Of course, these digital payments are much more easily taxed and tracked. Regional governments are among the earliest to benefit, says Businessweek, as their revenue rises 11% a year with the QR helping business pay local taxes. Okay, so we're seeing the trend in some complex issues. Hey, Finbear, what's happening? We've got a little study group, I guess you'd call it, complex tax issues, courtesy of ChatGPT, and some articles you may not be able to locate online, but I was able to, so I thought I'd just read them out to you guys. Now, in addition to the increased tax collection, the spectre of surveillance is in view. Soon you may not need a mobile phone to use QR, the Businessweek article enthuses. The central bank is testing financial recognition technology. Here we go. For places like schools where students aren't allowed to carry phones, they can shop in the canteen using money in their bank accounts by showing their faces. Now, I am pretty sure there's a Twitter video and people are using their face to purchase things. Now, I can remember that, but I didn't have that planned to show it, but this sounds like that. Anyway, moving on. Indonesia's success will be a useful blueprint. Southeast Asia needs to remain a first mover to maintain high degree of controllability over the rapid expansion of digital finance, said Bank Indonesia Deputy Governor Philinggish Hendarata. It's easy to become frightened or depressed, or both, when reading about developments like these. But Paradigms, Jim Rickards, the man who started warning millions of Americans last summer about Biden bucks, says you're not helpless, which is good to know. If you're not already clued in, you really need to learn about an alternative currency that's as light as a feather, but also made of real gold. Folks like you are likely already using it in 3 US states because it's physical. Hold in your hand gold currency that the government can't control how you transact or who you transact with. But if you are within the DeFi space, you might also argue maybe real DeFi is another parallel answer to that, which is where I disagree with the analysis. But everything else, pretty spot on. Now, this goes on to cover yesterday's. So, stonks, we don't really care too much about. You could look into that. Goes into the Dow. Banks and their earnings. Gold, silver, crude. Let's have a look. We do have some biotech. Again, stonks. Not really interested. Planes back up in the air finally. And we have this here. No, well, I guess we cover this. China manipulates its currency. What's the United States been doing for the last 52 years since Richard Nixon cut the dollar's tie to gold? And make no mistake, an unsounded currency is what enabled the entire US-China dynamic starting in the late 1990s. We sent them little green pieces of paper, or the electronic equivalent, backed by nothing, and in exchange we got all manner of valuable finished goods. Maybe not always the best quality, but still a pretty sweet deal. America's industrial base started hollowing out in the 1970s. The term Rust Belt came into being long before China's economy opened up to the West in any meaningful way. Now, but of course, the American policymakers who brought about this state of affairs are more happy for you to blame the foreign devils. Lol. And wrapping up this one pretty soon. When you cite libertarian principles and authors like Adam Smith as a basis for your beliefs, you're taking an easy and intellectually lazy position, says Arthur. Says another, whose email we've had to truncate to stay within our 5 minutes today. It permits you to avoid the real world, the actors within it, and the moral requirements for any economic or political system to work. It's easy because a fully libertarian system will never exist. Get in the game and stop being an intellectual namby-pamby. It's annoying, disingenuous, and cowardly. Anyone who can hide behind the philosophy that will never become reality and be tested in the real world. Okay, some pretty stern words, but worth hearing. The 5. It's not a matter of every country in the world adopting a fully libertarian system. In the real world, protectionist measures inevitably backfire. Thus, the lost jobs from the Bush steel tariffs and the high prices resulting from the Trump-Biden tariffs on steel and aluminium. It's just an ironclad, stubborn, and inflexible economic fact that you can't artificially introduce massive and wasteful inefficiencies into an economy with protectionist policies and somehow make the economy better off, wrote economist Mark Perry in 2017. Yes, here we go, citing another libertarian author again. Protectionists just can't overcome the protectionist math that guarantees significant adverse economic outcomes from tariffs that include the net loss of domestic jobs, a net loss of domestic income, a lower standard of living, and reduced prosperity. Again, this is just reading from this individual here. What do we got? Yes, you might have heard of him. Alright, moving on. So the next section, basically what they did, they've cited about 3 links deep. So the next one, this was about the Restrict Act from April 17th, so the day before. As I said, I've been a bit trapped in my own mind, so I thought I'll jump back to the research and present the research. It just won't die. The Patriot Act 2.0, another 5 minutes. So hopefully this will be a valuable 5 minutes of your life. It just won't die. Patriot Act 2.0. Internet freedom almost dodged a bullet. Pentagon leaked reinvigorates Restrict Act. Zach Scheidit about those bank earnings. Ethereum's Shanghai upgrade. A Pentagon's contractor underwrites a killer opera. A reader calls BS on gold policy over personality and more. Okay. So we'll try and keep it somewhat crypto related where I can, but when there's the Restrict Act being talked about, I think it's worth covering. For a few days it seems as if freedom had dodged a bullet. On March 30 we sounded the alarm about the Restrict Act of 2023, described by shrewd observers as a Patriot Act for the internet. Thank you other viewers for tuning in. Now, We have here a tweet from Tulsi Gabbard. The Restrict Act not only bans Americans from using TikTok, it is a Patriot Act 2.0 for the internet. It will give the government unfettered access to all data on your computers, phones, security cameras, internet browsing history, payment applications, and more. It throws the Freedom of Information Act out the window, cannot be challenged in court, and criminalizes the use of a VPN with up to 20 years in jail and $1 million fine. If that doesn't sound authoritarian, I don't know what does. Now, should we play this back? I don't think that'll take up too much time, so let's continue on. Ostensibly, the legislation would give the president the authority to ban the TikTok app. In reality, it grants executive branch to authority to enforce any mitigation measure to address any risk and to national security. Broadly defined, indeed, the language is so broad that US citizens could be designated as foreign individuals who pose a national security threat. How might that play out? Use your imagination, writes JD Tulsi at Reason. Government officials impending the law certainly will. Okay, moving on. The following day, March 31st, it looked as if momentum behind the Restrict Act had hit a wall. Key senators are now suggesting that they're ambivalent about Restrict, said a report from Politico. A right-wing backlash to the legislation is building. A Fox News host Jesse Walters gave an especially hard time to Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. I don't think I support the Restrict Act, said Graham, even though he was one of over 20 co-sponsors. Okay. The bill's lead sponsor, Senator Mark Warner, D. Virginia, also had defended the bill, said Politico, from accusations that it would undermine free speech and expand government surveillance. Okay. And then came the leak of top secret Pentagon documents. We can probably skip that in terms of relation to crypto, not so tight. More to the point, the leaker tale will also surely be framed as a reason to pass the Restrict Act. Okay, we'll look at this. Now, writes independent journalist Matt Taibbi at his Racket News site. Taibbi calls the bill a wet dream of creepazoid Virginia Senator Mark Warner, which would give government wide latitude to crack down on communication technology, creating undue or unacceptable risk to national security. Watch how this thing will be spun. It's going to get ugly fast. The number of Restrict Act sponsors in the Senate is now up to 25. 1 out of every Senate, 4 senators, 13 Democrats, 12 Republicans. That includes Lindsey Graham, who retired his support for the bill the day after the Jesse Waters interview. We'll keep you posted on the state of play. So I guess my take on that is communication technology. What is blockchain? Anyway, moving on. Let's have a look. Gold, we're not so concerned. Bank earnings, not so concerned. Crypto prices are hanging tough, although this is April 17, so not so concerned. We can cover that though. Crypto prices are hanging tough. Indeed, Ethereum was survived what more than a few crypto bros thought would be a crushing event. As you might recall, Ethereum finished its transition last year from proof of work model like Bitcoin to a much less energy intensive proof of stake model. Staking relies on depositors by using Operate. The blockchain explains paradigm crypto guru James Altucher, which is yet to talk about Hex, mind you. Stakers, so I wonder what his analysis is like. Stakers place deposits as collateral, which they risk losing if they cheat or break the blockchain rules. In exchange, stakers earn a steady stream of interest for their contribution. Maybe Pulse Chain, you know. Last week brought the much touted Shanghai upgrade, in which stakers now have the option of withdrawing the deposits following a predetermined amount of time. Locking away. As you might imagine, there were worries that stakers would try to withdraw their Ethereum and exchange it for either fiat money or other cryptocurrencies. Instead, Ethereum plowed through 2,000 for the first time since August. This morning, it's at 2,083. Bitcoin is at 29,459. James figures Ethereum might oscillate around the 2,000 mark for a while, but looking forward, the blockchain smart contract capabilities, ecosystem of developers, and speed of transactions make for a far more appealing alternative than rivals like Bitcoin. Longer term, I expect Ethereum could eventually trade for $10,000. Now, you wait till they hear about Pulse Chain. Anyway, what do we got? we do have some of this. Not so much related to crypto. I think we can skip over that section. Now, this one here from April 20, 2023, a fire alarm for the dollar, literally. Timing was, okay, so this one, unsaved by the bell, RFK Jr. The dollar's unprecedented share of total global currency reserves. Ain't no stopping central banks buying gold. Elon Musk twins blows up. The super looming debt ceiling, a vulgar AI generated interview, and more. Right, so almost done. The timing was almost surely coincidental, or was it? Someone pulled the fire alarm as Robert Kennedy Jr. started to expose the failures of the military-industrial complex. Nice try. Okay, that sounds like a dirty trick to me. Anyway, as you might or might not be aware, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., son of Bobby, nephew of Jack, has embarked on a long short run for the Democrats' presidential nomination. He made it official yesterday in Boston on Patriots' Day, the anniversary of the shot heard around the world in 1775 that launched the American Revolution. Ironically, his launch speech yesterday spotlighted the global trend of de-dollarization, just as we did in our main topic yesterday. Now, again, starting to get a few deep here anyway. Like us, he placed the blame squarely on the failures of US leaders. They, China, are now displacing us as trade partners in most of the African nations. Latin America, Brazil just switched to Chinese currency away from the dollar. Saudi Arabia just switched away from the dollar. And then the fire alarm went off. There was no danger, and Kennedy was able to continue his speech moments later. Anyway, we will see more signposts on the road to de-dollarization today. Let's go. Now, dollar share of total global currency reserves took an unprecedented drop last year. Not so crypto related. Gold. Let's have a look. But again, we caution the dollar's demise as the world reserve currency as is a process and not an event. This will be worth reading, but not for cryptocurrency so much. Now, economy. I guess we'll cover this. So, for the record, Uncle Sam is in danger of defaulting on the national debt sooner than previously thought. With Congress at odds over how to raise debt ceiling, the Treasury has been resorting to accounting tricks since January 19th to stay below the debt ceiling, now 31.4 trillion with a D, but the tricks worked for only so long until now. The thinking was the clock would run out in early August, and now a report from Goldman Sachs is pointing to the first half of June, blaming the accelerated timetable on a weak tax collections this month. Okay, and anyway, and then there's this here, problems made possible by AI that hadn't started to even think about yet. We'll cover this. That's the cover of German magazine, Die Aktuelle. And the headline, Michael Schumacher, the first interview. Schumacher is the Formula One racing legend who suffered severe head injuries during a skiing accident in December 2013. He was put into an induced coma, came home with his family in September 2014, hasn't been seen since. True, I didn't know that. Hasn't been seen since. The magazine was up front with the quotes from the interview were made up by an AI program called Character AI. I can, with help from my team, actually stand by myself and even slowly walk a few steps, as one of the made up quotes. We're not sure what the magazine's editors were trying to accomplish here. Did they want to demonstrate AI's capabilities to generate fakery? If so, it's backfiring spectacularly. Schumacher's family tells Reuters Newswire they plan to sue. Lol. Okay. Gold. And almost done. Almost done. Risk in disguise when safe strategy snap. This one is. Why did we pull this one? There's a battle raging in the market right now. Not the market you're probably watching. We'll cover this briefly because this might give some context to what's actually taking place in the economy as a whole. There's a battle raging in the market right now, but not the market you're probably watching, says our income investment ace, Zach Scheidit. I'm not talking about the new banking crisis, company earnings, or even stock market. He says instead one of the most safest investments you could possibly make. An investment that millions of retirees are currently holding is about to be a casualty of this high stakes battle. So I want to show you what's going on behind the scenes in the bond market and make sure you're protected from what could be a catastrophe for your retirement. Again, this is probably for people who are planning to retire in the next, if you can hang out for another 10 years, you'll be okay. But if you're planning to retire in the next 10 years, maybe this might be affecting you. Anyway, high rates are the Fed's only effective weapon against inflation. That continues as at the last Fed meeting, Jerome Powell and his colleagues raised interest rates by another 0.25% and indicated that the Fed would keep rates high until inflation is under control. Here's a chart of the federal funds. He says a good proxy for short-term market interest rates. Okay, so up to the right. Now, the Fed keeping rates high to fight inflation is one side of the battle. On the other side, we've got Wall Street traders who are looking further into the future. The Wall Street expects the US economy to enter a recession soon. Conventional wisdom reasons the Fed will flinch. You've probably heard about the Fed's pivot and allow interest rates to move lower. Okay, so you guys, someone might find this interesting. Now, here's the thing. Fed Chair Jerome Powell has plenty of resolve to keep rates high, though, Zach. Over and over, Powell has referenced the period of 1970s, telling Americans that he will not repeat the same mistake of cutting rates too quickly and allowing inflation to return. Whether you agree with him or not, it's clear that the Fed Chair has absolutely no intention of wavering from this stance. As investors, we have to wonder what will happen 10-year rates if we enter a recession and Powell does not immediately cut rates. Wall Street is in for a big surprise and will have to adjust its stance on long-term interest rates. Here's why that should matter to you and your retirement. Again, or if you're in a finished product that has some pretty decent yield, you might be paying attention to this because you could explain to other people, if you want to, maybe this yield is crushing this yield. Anyway, when long-term interest rates are reinvested higher, bond prices will trade lower. Zach explains. I'll read that again. When long-term interest rates are revised higher, bond prices will trade lower. If you're holding long, so this is what SVB obviously didn't know about. Apparently, they didn't have a risk team in place to be able to do this. Anyway, moving on. If you're holding long-term treasury bonds in your retirement account, those bonds will be worth less, possibly for years to come. He reiterates. Yes, if you hold these long-term bonds until they mature in 10 or 20 years, you'll get your money back and the interest you've been promised all along the way. But there are two major drawbacks to this approach. First, if you need the money in the interim, you'll be unlucky, he says. You'll have to sell your bonds at a lower price and realize a loss on your investment. Maybe if you the equivalent of an emergency end stake, but worse. Second, while you're holding your long-term bonds and waiting to get your money back, inflation will continue to degrade the value of your money until you will eventually receive. So in 10-20 years, says Zach, that $1,000 per bond may not be worth much at all. If only there was a finished product that would produce more of itself. Anyway, moving on. That these individuals knew about. Instead of holding bonds and waiting for Powell to flinch, here's what I suggest. Will I cover this? Okay, let's have a look. Let's strategize. War game. Sell your long-term treasury bonds at what is currently a relatively attractive price, Zach suggests. Then use cash to buy short-term treasuries that mature in 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months. You could use a bank CD as well, as long as you don't have more than $250,000 at any one bank because of what took place in the US. This is US related. This is not financial advice either. I'm purely reading this off of here in an unofficial manner. When those investments mature, he adds, chances are good that long-term interest rates will be higher, which allows you to buy bonds at lower price and get better long-term returns. Today's interest rate battles require you to take action to protect your wealth. I hope you will adjust your retirement savings so you're not caught in the crossfire. If only they knew about Hex. If only they knew about Pulse Chain. If only the price of Hex would stabilize and someone could produce yield figures and present those yield figures to individuals like this and show them. But at the moment, if you present a yield figure, maybe it's not so good because you might have, from the all-time high to today, if there was burnt Hex, then minted Hex, it might not look too good. However, As each day progresses, more and more data becomes available. And, it might be, you could, with data, with maths, with information, with numbers, point out that, doing this might not be mathematically as desirable as, looking into hex. I don't know. What would 250,000 hex look like? And imagine how you could stake that ladder out. That's an interesting concept. Especially, you could say, well, imagine if you did it near the entry level prices till today. Those figures would be interesting to present. Moving on. Okay, so more strategizing. We could do that. We won't. Stonks, biotech, gold. Okay, here we go. We'll cover the CBDCs. Do states have power to block CBDCs? Ask a subscriber, a Paradigm Service, in regards to strategic intelligence. It's a topic we touched on last month when Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis proposed legislation to ban CBDCs under Florida's Uniform Commercial Code. Back to the reader's question, Jim replies, probably not, although the matters have never been litigated. Article 1, Section 8 of the US Constitution gives the US Congress the exclusive right to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. One legal question is whether the launch of a CBDC is an act of coining money. Jim continues Jim. A CBDC is not really a new currency, it's a new payment channel and ledger. The money will be still $1, but will be moved and recorded in ways that allow digital surveillance of citizens without a warrant. It is not clear if a state can block that without violating the coinage power. What states can do this to permit new payment channels for their own, such as cryptocurrencies, or allow gold or silver to be accepted in satisfaction of certain state obligations, such as taxes, he says. States might also use state laws to regulate retail merchants to prevent them from accepting CBDCs, even if they are created by the federal government. There is enormous legal uncertainty here because digital technology has blurred the meaning of money as it was used in Section 8, he concludes. The best approach is to assume CBDCs are coming, while at the same time prepare to use alternatives such as gold and silver. I would argue cash and crypto, however. There are some pitfalls if they decide to go after cash, and some pitfalls if they decide to go after cryptocurrency, as I mentioned before. Again, it's probably worth reading here. Again, pointing out. Although the matter has never been litigated, Article 1, Section 8 of the US Constitution gives the US Congress the exclusive right to coin money, regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. So, interesting stuff to know. We could cover this, but we won't. Nord Stream. Now. We failed to mention 420 yesterday. Low. Alright, now, last one. I promise. Treasury, Yellen's keen grasp of the obvious. April 19th. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, aha moment, US economic warfare backfires all over the place. Jim Rickers on Top Gun and Ghost Fleets. An uncanny day in crude oil's history, and the SEC's crypto fatwa, Biden's Chinese tech fatwa, Netflix co-founder Reed Hastings, a true Imagineer, and more. Okay, that's SEC stuff. Sounds interesting. Let's have a look. American policy summed up in one word: derp. Low. Derp, derp. Derp, derp, derp. Alright. I want to read that, but we won't. Let's go down to the fatwas. The fatwa. Beavis if I had something. Fatwa. Now this is a good one. Crypto is steady as she goes. Ethereum, blah, blah, blah. As we keep half an eye on the stablecoin hearing in Capitol Hill. Okay, let's read this. We skip over oil. that we mentioned off the top yesterday. No fireworks that we've seen so far today, but wow, did the SEC Gary Gensler get roasted during a different hearing yesterday? Here we have this here, Chairman Patrick McHenry wasted no time taking Gary Gensler to task at today's hearing. We have a constitutional duty to conduct oversight of the agencies under our jurisdiction, and will continue to do so aggressively. That was a good watch. I gave him a follow, that particular account a follow. House Financial Services Committee Chair Patrick McHenry, North Carolina, ran down a litany of complaints against Gensler, starting with Gensler's jihad against crypto. Under your leadership, the SEC has brought nearly 50 separate enforcement actions against digital asset firms, and now your agency is requesting an additional $78 million to expand your enforcement agenda. At the same time, you have refused to provide clarity on whether digital assets offered as part of an investment contract are subject to security laws and, more importantly, how these firms should comply with those laws. You're pushing digital asset firms for allegedly not adhering to the law when they don't know it will apply to them. That's nonsensical. McHenry is a partisan hack, but he's not wrong. Alas, we're not done today with the topic of Washington's economic warfare. What have we got here? Politico reports that Joe Biden is about to sign an unprecedented executive order requiring American companies to notify the US government of new investments in Chinese technology firms and banning investments altogether in sectors like microchips, on top of export restrictions imposed last year targeting China's chip industry. The Treasury National Security Council was said to be at odds over some of the details, but the edict will likely be handed down by month's end. Okay, we'll skip over this. Skip over the what's this? I remember, I don't know if you guys remember Netflix, man. I used to, like, this was years ago. I was like trialing Netflix. They'd send me out DVDs and I'd send it back. Like, what the hell? And then looking forward a few years, I'm like, wow, it evolved. Anyway, something different for the mailbag. Actual piece of snail mail sent by a very long time reader. Okay, won't cover that. Yeah, that's it. Alright, that is it. So, whilst we wait for Pulse Chain, mainnet, I would hope there is no more V5s, V6, V7, V8, V10s, V12s, V24s, you know, jet engines, hypersonic engines. I've gone off topic, but I'm really hoping V4 is progressing along at a faster rate than V3 progressed to V4, and there's no hiccups, because maybe, just maybe, that might mean mainnet. Mainnet either very soon or in a few months or in several months' time is my thoughts on that one. But as it appears to be, in a previous video that I think I covered, I think I have notes for it somewhere, basically saying you will have the ability to, hang on, I'll try and find these notes. Ratio trade, because you need to get into position. Once you're in position, then you can decide whether or not you are going to engage in ratio trading, because once the ratio trading window of opportunity has closed on you, you will no longer be able to ratio trade. You will be getting a copy, so you'll be deciding what LPs and how you're going to manage your LPs, if you're going to pull your LPs, and what coins you're actually wanting to hold over into the fork. Because my thoughts are, if you are going to pull all your LP, and say you want a copy of Hex, but maybe you don't want to be holding on the Ethereum side, 100% hex because you want to re-enter into LP pools. But the downside of holding these LP pools will be that when you get the copy of them, you will be giving up that opportunity cost. Now, it's hard to say because myself, I'm going to be staking over, and then that way there's no real need for me to do a whole lot. However, people with LP may have some decisions very shortly, and they might be coming sooner than they think. But on that note, what I have done is prepared, and I have held some hardware wallets for the longest time, waiting for Pulse Chain to occur. So I will continue to hold that and prepare, and prepare for the battle that is about to commence. And cryptocurrency, who is not Hexkin friendly or Pulsekin friendly or Richard Heart Ecosphere friendly, whether or not you are actually, we'll see where you really stand when the fork takes place, because we shall see who shields what, and we shall see who funds what, I guess you could say. Now, I cannot find those notes, so I won't cover it again. I did find my notes for the April, what are we up to now? Nice. What's wrong with your car? I actually have to fix my car as well, man. I've got to do the what is it called? Sorry, I just looked up from my notes. I'm planning on doing the oil and the brakes. Shouldn't be too bad, because the price of servicing has actually gone up. April, May. So I found my notes for interest rates. So current call, I would say, is May. We're looking at 0.25 basis points. But yeah, back to what I was saying about crypto. With crypto, it's going to be interesting, because when you're moving these LPs over, maybe you're going to want to, if you did move all stables to, say, Hex and pair it with Hex through the bridging facility, that would create a whole new LP pool never seen before, you know. And like I said, with my example of the incentive token, maybe that itself could bring over value. Like, I guess once the bridges open up in on Pulse Chain, and you can actually inject value in, assuming no exchanges actually list, it might be another way to inject value. Now, I think that's about it. Over some old notes of mine. The question I have is, once Pulse Chain launches, once value is injected into the system, once people decide whether or not they're going to be chasing early gains for yield farming, and I guess also chase early gains in actually being a validator, which I'm a little bit behind, to be honest. What is the system going to do? And will people LP on Ethereum and Pulse Chain, or are people going to completely abandon Ethereum? I can't see the complete abandonment taking place, but once Ethereum hits $10,000 US, that gas fee is going to be nasty for the little guys, you know. And I think Pulse Chain might just help some people. And I guess if you're lucky enough to hold some PulseX and Pulse Chain, the question will be, do you want to get more T-shares? You know, do you want to support the network? Do you want to farm? Do you want to be a degen? All of which is in the realms of possibility. All right, that is about this. That is about it for this stream. Yeah, CBDCs. We gotta watch this thing, man. We gotta watch it, and there's no stopping it, and it's frustrating. Until tomorrow. Free speech signing out.